What if the Big Bang wasn't just a random cosmic event, but it was a single conscious field asking itself the most profound question of all? Am I enough? And the only way for the universe to answer that question is to let itself reveal its entire potential. The universe, in this view, is the ultimate proof that the singularity is, in fact, enough. Welcome to the Light Journal podcast. I'm Jamie Perez. Today, I'm starting a two-part exploration into the deepest mystery of existence, consciousness itself. But we're going to start with a thought experiment, going back to the very beginning of the beginning, to when there was a single unified field of consciousness. Now, when we consider the original source, or singularity, becoming aware of itself, what's the first question it would ask? We could imagine it asking, "What am I?" That's an inquiry into its nature. Or perhaps, "Who am I?" And that's a question about its identity. These are questions of definition, but we should also consider, am I alone? That's a question of existence, which would prompt it to create an other, to see if anything else is out there. Then there's one question that, for me, gets to the heart of it all. Am I enough? Am I enough is a question of value and potential. It's the most profound question a conscious entity can ask itself. It implies a desire not just to exist, but to be complete, to fulfill its own purpose. The only way for the singularity, or the source, to answer this question is not just by creating another thing, but by creating everything. It has to reveal, unfold, display all of its entire potential, all its complexity, all its beauty, all its consciousness, in order to demonstrate its own inherent value. The universe, in this view, is the ultimate proof that the singularity is, in fact, enough. By choosing this as our starting point, we're shifting the focus from a simple cosmic event to a purposeful act of creation. It sets the stage for our journey through the universe's great experiment. So let's go back to the moment before time, before space, and before perception. Let's imagine that perfect unity, that singular, undifferentiated state, that perfect symmetry, and the question that it was about to ask. This is what I'm calling stage one. So let's begin our thought experiment at the very beginning of the beginning. I want you to just close your eyes for a moment and just imagine this with me. Picture a state before time, before space, and even before your own perception of the world came into being. It was a state of perfect unity and absolute silence. No there was there. It's just a singular, undifferentiated state. Science would call that the quantum field. Now, I'll be upfront, there's no scientific evidence for a conscious quantum field, but phenomena like the observer effect suggest consciousness might exist at a quantum level, hinting at a much deeper connection between our minds and the physical world. This initial state of harmony and unity is echoed in many of the wisdom traditions. For example, in Daoism, it's the Tao, the nameless, formless source of all things. In Hinduism, it's the Brahman, the uncreated, eternal, all-pervading reality. In Kabbalah, it's the Ein Sof, the infinite, unmanifested aspect of God. Even in Buddhism, we have the concept of the sunnata. It is seen as the dynamic potentiality from which all phenomena arise. Now, this is where our thought experiment gets really interesting. Imagine that the single conscious field asks itself a question. Am I enough? how would it find the answer? It could only do so by testing its own potential. The only way to know if you're enough is to put your capabilities into action and see what you can create. This meant that the unified field had to demonstrate its own immense power. It couldn't just create an other. It had to create a universe. This required the quantum field to differentiate itself from itself. To begin creating, it had to first break its own symmetry. And this is a core concept in particle physics. So how did the universe begin to answer its own question? By bringing forth the very first manifestations of its potential in the form of particles. Now that the singularity has differentiated itself by creating particles within a universe, which is the first answers to the "Am I enough?" question, a new question immediately arises, and this is the beginning of stage 2. How do I relate to myself? The universe, in its quest for self-knowledge, has to figure out how these new separate things can interact with one another. This is the stage of duality, the relationship between all things that arise from the same source. Particles begin to connect, forming atoms, which then form molecules. It was the universe's first handshake between parts of the whole. These stable systems were the universe's first answers to the question of relationship. Now, we can see this really beautifully playing out in the concept of Daoism's yin and yang. We often think of them as simple opposites, like light and dark, but a more accurate way to see them is as two distinct notes that come together to create a single harmonious chord. The notes are individual vibrations, yet the chord is the result of their relationship. The notes aren't in conflict. They're a unified sonic expression. And this is the way we can understand the conversation that the universe is having with itself. The universe is exploring how it relates to itself through the harmonious interaction of dualistic components, between light and dark, between two notes, between the rise of a wave and the fall of a wave. So the answer has nothing to do with a battle between forces. It's all about the harmonious balance that develops between them. This idea is also a core tenet in Hinduism, particularly in the concept of the Advaita Vedanta. Its core teaching, Tut Vam Asi, which means thou art that, asserts that the perceived separation between our individual consciousness, which is the Atman, and the universal consciousness, which is Brahman, is an illusion, or Maya. In this view, the interactions we see in the material world, from particles bouncing off each other to people falling in love, are simply the one singular reality, playfully exploring its own nature. It's like a dancer moving different parts of the body just to learn what the body's capable of doing. And now we move into the third stage. As the universe answered its question about relationship, its inquiry changed again. With stable atoms and molecules in place, a new question arises. What happens when I organize myself into greater complexity? This is the stage of emergence, where the universe begins creating something far more intricate than the sum of its initial parts. Think of it like this. A single musical note is just a sound. Two notes played together creates a harmonious chord. And when you arrange thousands of notes, you have a symphony. The universe is now ready to create the symphony. The concept of emergence from a singular source is a core idea in many traditions. In the Daoist cosmology, the Tao gives rise to the Taiji, which then differentiates into the yin and the yang, and then from their dynamic balance, you have the 10,000 things of the manifest world come into existence. The Kabbalistic tree of life that you're seeing displayed on the screen is a similar framework. It's a mystical diagram that represents creation as a series of emanations from the divine. Beginning with the infinite Ein Sof, it emerges through 10 divine spheres called the Sephirot. The original tree shows us how the unmanifested aspects of the divine organizes itself into the complex reality that we're experiencing. It's a map of creation itself, from the simple to the complex. Now, the ultimate answer to this stage 3's question, is the creation of biological life. Life is the ultimate example of complex self-organization, where matter begins to arrange itself into intricate feedback loops. An organism's sensory systems, the sight, sound, touch, they aren't just biological tools. They are the quantum field's way of creating dedicated sensors in order to feel its own complexity. They are the universe's eyes and ears designed to observe its own expansion. And now we move into stage 4. Now that the universe has answered its question about complexity by creating biological life, we have the emergence of self-aware beings, like humans. And so the inquiry reaches its ultimate peak because the universe can now ask, what is my purpose? Does that sound familiar? This isn't a question that a galaxy or a molecule can ask. It can't be answered by physical processes alone. It requires reflection. The universe, through its creations, through us, has finally arrived at a point where it can look back and ask about its own nature. This is the stage of fragmentation of that initial singularity. This is the stage of fragmentation where the one unified whole begins to explore itself through countless individual points of view. This idea of a divine source fragmenting itself is a key theme in many wisdom traditions. In Gnosticism, for example, the divine source is called the pleroma, or fullness, and this unified source gave rise to divine beings. But a cosmic fall or error led to the creation of our flawed material world. According to Gnostic teachings, these scattered sparks of the divine essence became trapped inside of us, inside of human beings. And so the goal of gnosis, or of knowledge, is to go on a journey of awakening these sparks so that they recognize their true divine origin. And then that knowledge, that divine essence, can return to the source where they'll help unify the fragmented whole. We can also find answers to the universe's question about purpose through Mahayana Buddhist teachings on sunyata, the sunyata referring to the original emptiness or void, and also the teachings of Dharmakaya, which relate to this particular stage in the universe's self-exploration. The Dharmakaya represents the unified, enlightened nature of all existence. Yet it manifests as countless individual beings, or sattva, who perceive reality from a fragmented perspective. So then the path to enlightenment isn't about becoming something new, but about the journey from this fragmented perspective, this fragmented view, to the realization of our very deep and interconnected nature. And when we understand what the universe is trying to answer, it makes more sense of the human brain, because the human brain has a capacity for philosophy, art, science, introspection, and it becomes the universe's ultimate experiential apparatus. We are the very instrument the universe is using to ask, and hopefully answer, the questions that we've been exploring in this particular framework. So now we get to stage 5. This is the final stage where the universe's inquiry reaches its culmination. The ultimate question, what is my purpose, isn't answered with a concept or a law, but through embodiment. The universe finds its answer by living it. This idea is at the heart of mysticism, because mysticism is all about a direct personal experience of the divine. The mystic seeks to transcend the ego and the illusion of separation in order to achieve a state of union with the whole. This is a profound embodied experience where the individual feels a seamless connection to the divine. And the mystic, through practices like meditation or contemplation, becomes the universe reflecting on itself. It's the ultimate conversation between the parts and the whole. Zen Buddhism provides a powerful parallel through its emphasis on enlightenment and direct insight into reality. Zen doesn't rely on a scripture or on any doctrines, but on direct experience of satori, which is sudden enlightenment. The practice of seated meditation is just a method for someone to shed their ego and directly perceive reality as it is. In this state of seated meditation or contemplation, the practitioner realizes that their individual consciousness isn't separate from the cosmos. It's a part of the cosmos. We, as conscious beings, are the universe experiencing itself. Our questioning is not separate from the quantum field, but is its most complex expression of itself. The purpose isn't to find a single answer, but to realize that we are the answer. We are the universe reflecting on itself to better understand who it is. So how does all of this information apply to us? Well, that's the most powerful part of this topic. The series of questions that the universe asks of itself is not just a cosmic narrative. It's the fundamental script of our own existence, of our own lives. We are not just mirroring these processes, we are embodying them. We're doing the work of the universe in our own lives. So every time we move through a stage of self-discovery, we're answering the singularity's questions for the consciousness itself. Our personal journey of becoming is the universe's way of understanding who and what it is, and if it is enough. So let's go back to stage one. The universe's first question, am I enough? How many of us can identify with that? How many of us have been asking that question since our childhood? A baby starts as pure potential, a singular being undifferentiated from the whole. But as we grow, our consciousness begins to fragment from the unity. We start to ask things like, can I walk on my own? Can I do this by myself? Am I worthy of love? And in our quest for identity, in our drive to create and to achieve and to struggle with self-worth, well, we're enacting all the same things that the universe is doing in its desire to test its own potential. Every time we find courage to face a challenge or affirm our own value, we are proving that the singularity's grand potential was, in fact, enough. So now we're looking at stage two. Once we have a sense of who we are, we're immediately faced with the universe's second question. How do I relate to myself? This is where we begin to feel the first stirrings of duality, that sense of being separate not only from others, but from our own nature. We begin to recognize the contrast between the desires of the spirit and the desires of the mind-body. These are like the two wolves on our shoulders, one destructive, one constructive. This internal war is the source of all our feelings of separation. It's what makes us feel disconnected from the whole. But this separation is an illusion. This war is an illusion. Our relationships in life with parents, friends, and partners are the universe's way of exploring itself. Our conflicts and our harmonies are the yin-yang of consciousness learning to relate to itself. Our ability to love and to forgive, to set boundaries and build bridges, is a living proof that the parts can find a way to work together, to harmonize, even if they feel separate, even if they feel like they're at war with one another. Now we get to stage 3. Having learned to relate with itself, we move into the universe's third question. What happens when I organize myself into greater complexity? This is the stage of human development where we build our lives. We acquire skills, create careers, form families, contribute to the community. Our education, our art, our work, they're all manifestations of us organizing our potential into intricate, meaningful systems. Every complex project we complete, every new skill we master, well, that's a personal answer to the universal question. We're proving that a life of meaning and purpose can be built from the foundations of our being. In this way, our lives are a microcosm of the universe's grand creative process. We're helping to prove that its initial potential was in fact enough to create order, to create beauty, and to find purpose. This is when we move into stage 4. At some point after we've built a life with careers, relationships, and routines, we come face to face with the question, what is my purpose? It usually shows up when we're having one of those down times, one of those quiet moments, or when life throws us a curveball and it makes us stop and reflect. We start looking back at everything that we've done and start wondering, how does it all add up? I mean, why does anything matter? Why does my life matter? It's like a part of us just steps outside our own story and asks, why am I here? What is this all for? Well, it's in those moments that we're not just living, we're searching for the deeper meaning behind the life we've built. We are the fragmented pieces, looking at the whole and asking why it all came to be. This is our personal version of the singularity, reflecting on its own creation. So now we get to stage 5. This is the final stage, and it has the ultimate answer. We realize that the purpose isn't to find a single definitive concept, but to embody, to experience the answer. It's the mystical experience of shedding the ego and realizing our interconnectedness. The question, what is my purpose, is not solved with a list or a title, but with the realization that we are the answer. We are consciousness experiencing itself. Our lived experience in all its complexity, joy, and sorrow, that's the universe's final, most compelling response to the question, am I enough? If you're captivated by the idea that your life is a living experiment of consciousness, I want to invite you to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so you'll never miss an episode of the Light Journal podcast. Because in our next episode, we're going to dive into part 2, where we're going to explore that theme a little bit more and also see how that framework applies to not just us, not just to individuals, but to communities, nations, and even the cosmos itself. Thanks for listening to the Light Journal podcast. I'm Jamie Perez. Blessings on your journey, everyone.